well known. Please do a little bit introduction for our viewers and our readers.
As you know, my name is Farzana Bari, and by profession I'm sociologist. I have a PhD from University of Sussex, UK, in sociology. My specialization is in gender studies, and I am heading, this is a Center of Excellence in Gender Studies, and I'm director here. And I took this kind of initiative to establish gender studies as a learning discipline in Pakistan, you know. So I have been involved with the university since 1992.
Okay. Ma'am, why education is a fundamental right has been included in human rights charter, in UN conventions and our constitution as a basic human right?
Yeah, because education is a fundamental right, because the very fact that the people's ability to read and write, literacy itself, and then people's ability to access to information through education, then also education equips you to do various kinds of work which the society needs. You know, you have to perform different types of work, and also in order to learn those particular skills and all that, you also need education. So education, you know, really makes you, you know, I mean, this is the human beings need that, you know, access to where their ability to learn and read and write and learn skills and have access to information and, you know, and connect with the rest of the world and all that, you know. And I think that makes education extremely important in order to make people to live a life of, you know, where they have a lot more choices, opportunities, you know, for themselves and for the society.
Okay,
As keep on coming out.
Fundamental right, and
yeah.
How is it important for females in circumstances here in Pakistan?
I think it's important for everybody, you know, it's whether it's a men and women, everybody is important. Because of our gender relationship between men and women, which are very power relationship, where normally you know, gender relationships not only in Pakistan, all over the world, there is a hierarchy. Men are in a position of power and women are normally in a position of subordination. Now, जब औरत और मर्द, when they are in a relationship, you know, which is a relationship of power, then there is always a higher risk and a higher chance that the person who will be in a position of power can violate the rights of the person who is in a position, or in that relationship is in a position of subordination. Now, if you are educated, because normally, and this gender inequality is a result of, you know, kind of a historical processes like cultural processes and all that, you know, and social and political processes. Now, if you enable and want to empower those people who are in position of subordination, that if there is some kind of a violence or some kind of violation of their rights within that relationship, and their ability to say no to violence, their ability to say to to exit that kind of a violent situation, then they can only do that if women are educated and they have the ability to use their educational skill also to get jobs and be economically empowered and can look after themselves. And also education makes you more conscientious and more aware of your rights, जिसको हम कहते हैं शऊर आ जाता है उससे. So women, so I think that's why it's become even more important for women to be educated so they can have more control over their lives in terms of shaur, in terms of consciousness, in terms of awareness of their own rights, and in terms of their ability to say no to any kind of violation of their right which may take place in the context of family or community or the society or the state, you know. And that's why I feel it is a lot more important that we invest also on our women. It's not only that because they want to become good mothers. Of course, everybody has to be, be good parents, you know, both. But I think for them to have more control over their lives, it is important that the women should have access to education. You know.
Has this fundamental rights of education translated into action in Pakistan with its true sense?
No, it's not. No, it hasn't translated into at two levels. First of all, the only sheer access, we are not talking about right now the quality of education, that how that education makes you a different human being or makes you a better human being. I'm not talking about that. Right now I'm talking about the sheer access, okay, sheer access to education. So if you look at in any case in Pakistan, everybody is suffering because our state for the last 64 years hasn't spent more than 2% of its GDP on on education, on people's education. So our education budget has never been more than 2%. The other thing is, so everybody suffered, although the government claimed that we have nearly 50% literacy rate, in Pakistan, which I don't believe. Factually, I feel it may be not more than 30%. And if you look at the gender gap in education, then women are, far less educated. Like they're saying the men are almost 50% and the women are like, 38 or so. But I think the women are not that, women are far less in terms of education. And we have seen there are certain pockets in Pakistan, for example, FATA, or for example Balochistan, where not more than 7% women are educated, FATA not more than 3%. So there are pockets in Pakistan, and if you go to the South Punjab belt, you will not find even a single woman, for miles and miles you won't find even a single woman who has matriculation or a middle class that you could train her as a lady, as a health worker or something else, because they don't have a basic literacy. So what I'm saying, at one level, even we have signed MDGs and education for all, we are party to international commitments, but our government hasn't done much to translate those commitments into practice. And now, particularly after 18th Amendment, when we are making this as a compulsory education for the entire population up to the age of 16, what we have seen, no budgetary allocation has been given to that, and we know when it comes to implementation, the whole agenda will evaporate, will disappear and finish.
Do you think that is only announcement, not?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, they do things politically, but then they do not have the political will to do that. It's not as if we can't do it, but they do not have political will to really invest in people's education and convert this country as a country of educated people, as a country which is a literate country. And I think without literacy, we cannot really keep up with the rest of the world. That's one thing. I think my other point is that, what worries me also, the quality of education, because even, when people are educated, they continue to remain as very biased human beings, very uncritical, very dogmatic, very much, subscribe to the same kind of, retrogressive kind of mindset. Like they'll carry on similar biases against religious minorities, against women, against, other, and those kind of irrational nationalism which builds on, feeds on to, like, hatred and hatred with neighbors, whether it's India or Iran or somebody else. So I think education, the quality of education is not providing critical thinking to our our students and our people, which is also a big question. So a lot of time you will meet women who have even PhDs or who are doctors and or who are engineers or professionals, and yet they will continue to take all kind of violations of their rights, or even if their husbands are beating them, they won't be try to protect themselves, and they justify at times because they internalize that kind of ideology. So I think in that sense also, it's education by itself, if we won't put too much like kind of attention and focus on quality of education, we still will not be able to create more innovative, progressive, tolerant, pluralist society.